to you from a winter wonderland in the middle of October. I wanted to just kind of jump in and see if you are interested in some sock talk today. I have test knit 3 sock patterns recently. I suppose one I did over the summer, but it's being released in November, and the designer has given the go-ahead to share photos and talk about the project. And the other 2 I did a little more recently, and they were released more recently, so I'd like to talk about those. This is episode 47, and in episode 46 I did a sock parade, but I kind of ran out of time to talk about them, so I wanted to kind of dedicate a little bit of time to talk about them with you today. So grab a beverage and let's chat. All right, are you ready for some sock talk? So earlier when I mentioned that there was great lighting, the sun was out. Now the sun is not out, it is cloudy, but the lighting I think should still be okay. The light that there is reflecting off of the white snow outside, so it can seem a little bright. Lighting will work out okay. Hopefully that's not too dark, we'll see. So I have 3 pairs of socks to share it with you today. They are all test knits. I'll start with the most the earliest release and then work my way forward to the one that will be released in November. So first up, here are the A-frame socks by Morgan, also known as Shop Knitting Nellie, and these socks are her first pattern. If you've been following along for a while now, you may know that I first started my sock knitting adventure in August of 2019, and now it is October 2020. And I have decided that I really like a simple basic stockinette vanilla sock because they're easy to pick up and put down. I think I mentioned a little more about that in the last episode, in episode 46. But what I do like about this one is not only do you have your stockinette round and round, but you also have, so there's some color work, there's some bobbles, and I love that. I love a nice color work sweater, so why not a color work sock? There aren't long floats to catch, so if you are worried about that, I feel like this is a great first colorwork project. I also feel like Morgan gives some nice little tips and tricks on making these adorable bobbles. I have now followed, I think, 3 or 4 different directions for how to make bobbles, and I really like this one. You don't see any like gaping holes or anything, and they stick out really nicely. You use the same color work or a color of yarn from the color work and the bobbles, also in the heel. It is a traditional slip stitch heel, and I knit mine in Little Lion Head Knits yarn, and this bluish greenish speckled is Come September, and then the contrast reddish brown is Elderberry Tea. So I feel like those 2 are very fitting for these lovely socks. They fit really nicely. I like the leg length. Typically I knit my socks probably up to the top of these sock blockers, but I like having this length as well. It's nice to have a variety. While I mentioned the sock blockers, these are by Knitting Left, and I really like them. The wood is so smooth, and I love that you can see the grain. These ones are snowbirds, which I think are very fitting. We love birds in our household, and I just love it. It's so smooth. And so what I do when I'm blocking my socks is after I soak them with wool wash for at least 15 minutes, I lay them flat on a towel, and then I roll up the towel to squeeze out the extra water from the socks, and then they're kind of damp by then, but not soaking wet. And then I will put them on these blockers and then lay them flat to dry. Now these do have a hole on top, so if you have like a hook or something, you can also hang them to dry. I have done pipe cleaners through to kind of loop them to then hang them up, or if you have any hangers that have the little like divots on the side, you can also hang them from that. So that is what I've done. Oh, and if you don't have pipe cleaners, you can use yarn, obviously, or string, or whatever else you want to use. I'm not sure why I used pipe cleaners. Maybe I just had pipe cleaners nearby or something. But anyway, so I highly recommend this pattern. It was released in, let me just check my notes, August of 2020. Then it does come in 5 sizes, which is really great. The smallest size is great for a toddler or a child. And then I knit the second size, which is the adult small, casting on 56 stitches, which is my typical stitch count for socks using a US 1 or 2.25 millimeter needle. I did do the color work in the round using 9-inch circulars because I feel like my tension is so much more even doing color work in the round. With double pointed needles, you have like that little gap between each needle, which sometimes if I pull too tight, then it puckers. If I don't pull tight enough, then you have a gap. Same with magic loop, you at least still have that one join on each side. And then with it being straight, I feel like it's harder for me to get an even tension. Whereas when I'm using 9-inch circulars, it's very even. It's just like knitting in the round 16-inch needles using a hat, or knitting a colorwork yoke. So that really appealed to me. And yeah, I love it. All right, the next pair of socks that I'd like to share with you are these. These are the Calico socks, also by Morgan of Shop Knitting Nelly, released this month, October 2020. Leg length is about the same, you can see, as the A-frame socks, maybe a little shorter, or maybe it's just how it's pulled or stretched. And I also knit the size 2 adult small 56 stitch cast on using US 1 or 2.25 millimeter needles. This one does have a little more color work on it, and because it's extended longer, you may have a hard time pulling it on over your heel part, like where it might be the widest on your foot. So it is recommended to go up a needle size or half a needle size to do just the color work portion. So I used US 1 2.25s on the ribbing and the rest of the sock, including the little bit of color work at the toe, but then I used a US 1.5 for the color work here. And I thought it worked out really nicely. It blocked out nicely. When I had just finished the color work, I did like a quick steam block and just tried it over on my foot to make sure it fit before I continued on. These ones are a gift, so I have not been wearing them. But they're so cute. I kind of want to make another pair so that I can wear them. This is a new to me heel. It's a honeycomb heel, I believe, is what it's called. So that was really fun to do. It's always kind of nice to learn something new. And then the little bit of color work at the toe, I did not switch out needles for because it was such a short section for that. But yeah, I recommend this pattern as well. Again, it comes in 5 sizes. If you follow the hashtag Calico Socks, lots of beautiful color combinations there. You can go warm palette, cool palette. The only thing I would recommend is making sure you have some sort of contrast in your colors for up here in the color work section. So if you use like a highly variegated yarn, it might be really hard to see your color work. I actually was surprised by how subtle my contrast ended up being. I think it's because this green that I used, the seafoam green, is heathered, and so is my gray, and so that blends colors a little more to begin with, and then I think they're all kind of even in tone. So I didn't have like one that was obviously really lighter, obviously really darker, and then kind of in the middle. So I think that's where it ended up more subtle, but I think it'll go really well for the recipient. So excited about these. All right, the last pair of socks I'd like to share with you are the Hibernation house socks, and these are by Lindsay at Lost and Fond. And actually I should change the blocker for that. It doesn't quite fit as well on that other one. That's a little bit bigger. I'll show the blocker to you. These ones are also by Knitting Left, and I love them. They have moose on them, and I bought these as the size for my husband's socks because I would like to knit him more socks. He does wear them. I have knit him 3 pairs now. The 3rd pair he hasn't gotten to wear yet because they are for Christmas. So my goal was to knit 4 pairs of socks, 1 for each person in our immediate family to wear starting December 1st. So I did my husband's already. I need to knit mine, and then I want to knit the 2 kids' theirs in November because kids have growth spurts, and if I knit it now, they might not fit for December. So the Hibernation house socks by Lindsay, I test knit these over the summer, and then they are being released, I believe, November 12th. For sure November. I think it's 12th. You'll have to check her Instagram to get the details on that. But yeah, these are super fun. The cuff is a folded over cuff, and that was a new to me construction, and you hold mohair double with fingering weight yarn, and it creates this beautiful halo, and it's just super soft. I had a new to me type of heel which mimics the pattern on the top of the foot of the sock, and it just came out so beautiful. I was inspired by autumn, as I usually am. I used the US 1, which is the 2.25 millimeter needles, and my main sock yarn here is the Sweet Georgia Yarns Tough Love Sock, which I believe is an 80-20, 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon. The yarn is tapestry, and I love how it micro striped. It is so beautiful. You've got plums, you've got olivey greens and mustard and dark purple, and so pretty. And then my mohair is a willow and lark plume mohair in the colorway Port. I believe you can use Surrey alpaca as well, and that tends to be a little thicker, so it might affect your gauge more than if you used a lace weight mohair, so just FYI. I won't say too much more about this pattern because it hasn't come out yet, but if you want to keep an eye out for it, check Lindsay's Instagram at Lost and Found, and I will hopefully put that up here on the screen. If I don't do that, it will definitely be in the description box below. So all the information that I talked about will be in the description box. So I forgot to mention the yarns that I used for the Calico socks. So sorry to jump back, but I wanted to use more commercially available yarns in this test knit because I do feel like it's important for test knits to show a wide range, or not, it has to be wide, but just a range of yarns. And I know sometimes designers have a collaboration with an indie dyer or some yarn company to make their pattern with, but when somebody is buying a pattern, I don't think they necessarily have to use whatever yarn was made in collaboration with the pattern. Well, however way that makes sense, but hopefully you understand what I mean. So nothing wrong with collaborations. I think they're great. I think they're a fun way for people to work together. I just think it's also important to know that you can use other yarn to make the same pattern. What I used was Regia's Trend Shine. I'm sorry, I don't even know how to say it, but again, it'll be linked below. It's a 4-ply, and this green is the Sea Foam, and then this one's called the Gray is Ice, and they're both by Regia. And then the contrast yellow color I used is West Yorkshire Spinners 4-ply and Butterscotch. So I used a 4-ply sock yarn for all of it. So yeah, it doesn't use a ton of the contrast colors. I believe I used, let's see, I used 41 grams of this gray silver color, and I used 9 grams of the Seafoam color, and then I used about 6 grams for the yellow. And again, that's casting on the second size, which is an adult small, 56 stitch count, and this the size, like length of foot, I'm knitting for someone who wears a US 6 women's shoe. I think that's all the socks that I have to share with you today. Those are the 3 that I really wanted to talk a little bit more about from the sock parade that I shared in episode 46. I hope you found some inspiration in today's sock talk and that you have a wonderful day. Cheers to being creative. Take care.